The last stand. The ground shook under Zara's feet as another explosion tore through the battlefield. Dust and smoke filled the air, making it hard to breathe. Her armor was cracked, her energy almost gone, but she still stood tall. She wiped the blood from her forehead and gripped her broken spear tighter. All around her the world was falling apart. The once beautiful alien city was now a graveyard. Buildings burned and screams echoed in the distance. The enemy, tall beasts with metal skin and red eyes, moved closer. Their heavy steps crushed the stones under them. Zara's people had fought bravely, but now, most of them were gone. She was the last defender of this place. Her heart pounded, but she refused to run. She would fight to the very end. One of the beasts charged at her. With a cry, Zara dodged to the side and drove her spear into its neck. Sparks flew as the beast fell, but there were more coming. Too many. Her hands shook. She could not last much longer. "Come on," she whispered to herself. "Just a little longer." Another beast swung a giant hammer at her. She tried to block it, but the force threw her across the ground. Pain shot through her body. She coughed and struggled to stand up. As the enemy raised its hammer to crush her, a loud gunshot rang out. The beast stumbled back, smoke rising from a hole in its head. Confused, Zara looked around. Through the smoke, a figure appeared. A human. He wore black armor, scratched and burned from battle. His eyes were sharp and focused. He moved fast, shooting two more beasts before they could even react. Zara's heart skipped a beat. Humans had left long ago. She had heard stories that they had abandoned this part of the galaxy, that they would never return. Yet here one was, saving her. The human ran to her side. Without a word, he pulled her up. "Can you fight?" he asked quickly. Zara nodded, too stunned to speak. "Good," he said, handing her a small, strange-looking gun. "We'll need each other." More beasts were coming. Together, Zara and the human stood back to back. She fired the new weapon. It was lighter and faster than anything she had used before. The beasts fell one by one, but they kept coming. Endless waves of metal and hate. Zara glanced at the human. He moved with skill, like he had fought these monsters before. His face was calm, even as danger surrounded them. She wondered who he was. Why was he here? Why now? A giant beast bigger than the others stepped forward. Its armor was thicker and its eyes glowed brighter. It roared, shaking the ground. The human cursed under his breath. "This one's different." Zara felt fear rise inside her, but the human smiled at her, a quick, fearless smile. "We can take it," he said. Together they charged. The battle was brutal. Zara's arms ached and her legs felt like stone, but she kept fighting. The human fought beside her, never letting her fall. They moved like a single being, covering each other's blind spots, trusting without speaking. Finally, after what felt like forever, the giant beast fell with a loud crash. Silence followed. Zara gasped for air, barely able to stand. The human placed a hand on her shoulder. "You fought well," he said softly, "but you're not alone anymore." Tears filled Zara's eyes. For so long she had thought they were forgotten, that no help would ever come. But now, standing beside her, was proof that hope was not lost. The human looked around at the burning city. "We have a lot of work to do," he said. Zara nodded. She didn't know where this path would lead, but for the first time in a long time, she didn't feel alone. Far above them, hidden behind the smoke, cold red eyes watched. The enemy's true leader had seen everything, and he was already planning his next move. The war was not over. It was just beginning. Strange ally, the ruins were silent after the battle, but the silence was heavy, like the deep breath before another storm. Zara leaned against a broken wall, trying to steady her breath. Her body ached from the wounds, but her mind raced even faster. She kept stealing glances at the human standing a few feet away. He moved with calm purpose, checking his weapon and scanning the area. He looked confident, almost too confident for someone who had just faced death. The black armor he wore had strange blue lights pulsing at the edges, and on his chest was a faded symbol, a white eagle with broken wings. Zara had seen that symbol before, long ago, in history books her people once kept. It belonged to the HFY humans, a race believed lost or abandoned after the Great War decades ago. Who are you? Zara finally asked, her voice hoarse. The human turned his sharp eyes toward her. There was a brief pause before he answered, as if measuring his words. Carefully. Jake, he said simply. Sergeant Jake Hunter. Zara frowned. The name meant nothing to her. But the way he said it, it carried weight. Like it mattered once, a long time ago. You are human, she whispered half to herself. Last time I checked, Jake replied with a small smirk. You're Zara, right? She stiffened. How did he know her name? How do you? She began. Long story. Jake cut her off. He reloaded his gun and looked at the burning horizon. But right now we don't have much time. They're regrouping. Zara's spear was broken, and her energy gun was empty. She had no choice but to trust him for now. But deep inside, fear gnawed at her. Humans had abandoned them once. What if this was another trick? They moved quickly through the ruined streets. Every shadow seemed alive, every corner hiding new dangers. Zara noticed Jake moved like a ghost, silent, fast, deadly. You should not be here, Zara said after a while, keeping her voice low. This world is lost. Not to me, Jake said. Before she could ask more, he suddenly stopped and held out his arm to block her. He pointed silently at the ground ahead, a small metal device half buried under the rubble. It blinked a soft green light. Trip mine, Jake said. New model. Nasty stuff. Zara swallowed hard. She would have walked straight into it if he hadn't stopped her. With skilled hands, Jake disabled the mine and took the small energy core from it. He tossed it to Zara. Here. You'll need it. The core fit perfectly into her empty gun. It buzzed to life again. Zara looked at him with a mix of gratitude and confusion. Why are you helping me? She asked. Jake didn't answer right away. Instead, he led her into a half-collapsed building. Inside, hidden under broken furniture, was a narrow tunnel leading underground. This way, he said. They moved through the darkness, their footsteps echoing softly. The air smelled of damp stone and old oil. After a long walk, they entered a hidden chamber. Maps, old communication devices, and strange alien weapons filled the room. In the center was a large holographic table showing a map of the sector, and blinking red markers everywhere. Zara stared in shock. Jake had been planning something big. This war, Jake began, his voice low and hard, was never supposed to end like this. He tapped the map, highlighting a massive enemy base deep within the mountains. They are building something, he said. Something that can wipe out not just your people, but mine too. What is it? Zara asked, her throat dry. We don't know yet, Jake said. But whatever it is, it's almost ready. Zara felt cold fear settle in her chest. We must warn the others, she said. Jake shook his head. There's no time. The communication towers are down. Even if we sent a message, it would take days. We have to stop it ourselves. Just the two of us, she said, almost laughing from the madness of the idea. You fought an army alone today, Jake said. You're stronger than you know. Zara looked at the map, then at Jake. Her people were counting on her, even if they didn't know it. And strangely, she believed him. Maybe it was madness. Maybe it was hope. Suddenly, alarms blared across the underground chamber. Red lights flashed. They found us, Jake said grimly. The walls shook as enemy forces closed in. There was no time to think. Zara and Jake grabbed weapons and ran for the other exit. As they burst into the night air, enemy drones spotted them. Bright searchlights swept across the ruins. Metallic roars filled the sky. Keep moving, Jake shouted. Zara sprinted beside him, her heart pounding harder with every step. They had survived the first battle, but the real war had just begun, and, somewhere high above, watching through the cold darkness, the enemy commander smiled. He had plans for the human and the alien girl, terrible plans. The hunt was on. The enemy's secret. The night was cold and heavy as Zara and Jake moved silently across the broken landscape. The stars above were hidden by thick clouds of smoke. Every step they took was a risk. Enemy patrols swarmed, the city ruins hunting for them like wolves. Zara gripped her gun tightly. Her fingers still trembled from the last fight, but her mind was sharp now. She trusted Jake. She didn't know why, but something about him gave her strength. She thought she had lost. They stopped behind a shattered wall. Ahead of them, a strange structure loomed in the darkness. Tall black towers rose into the sky, connected by pulsing energy lines. Soldiers with metal armor guarded every entrance. Giant machines moved like insects, carrying crates into the ground. Zara's eyes widened. "What is this place?" she whispered. Jake pulled a small device from his belt and showed her the screen. It displayed a blueprint of the structure. "Underground facility," he said. "They're building something big, something dangerous." "What kind of weapon?" Zara asked, fear tightening her chest. "If the intel is right," Jake said, voice low, "it's a reality breaker." Zara blinked, confused. She'd heard the term before in old myths. Weapons so powerful they could rip planets apart or bend time itself. "But that's impossible," she said. "Not anymore," Jake replied grimly. A sudden noise made them both freeze. 2 enemy scouts were moving toward their hiding spot. Jake signaled with his hand. "Wait." Zara held her breath as the scouts passed just a few meters away. Her heart pounded so loud she thought they would hear it. Once the danger passed, Jake pointed to a small service tunnel leading underground. "That's our way in," he said. "We can't fight all of them," Zara warned. "We won't," Jake said. "We sneak, we steal, we run." Zara nodded, and together they slipped into the tunnel. The air inside was damp and filled with a strange hum. It smelled like burnt metal and oil. They crept through narrow corridors, past sleeping guards and humming machines. Everywhere they looked, strange alien tech pulsed and twisted, alive with energy. Suddenly, Zara grabbed Jake's arm. "Look," she whispered. Through a glass window, they saw it, the core of the weapon. It floated in mid-air, surrounded by a web of light. Dark figures in long robes moved around it, chanting in a language Zara couldn't understand. "It's almost complete," Jake said, his face hard. "Can we destroy it?" Zara asked. "Not yet," Jake said. "We need to find the command codes. Without them, blowing it up could cause a chain reaction. It could tear half the planet apart." They moved deeper into the facility. The deeper they went, the stranger the world became. Walls melted into strange shapes. Time seemed to bend. One moment they were walking, the next they were standing still. Whispers echoed in their minds. Voices that didn't belong to either of them. "Stay close," Jake said, pulling Zara back when she stumbled. "What is this place?" she gasped. "The enemy is using forbidden science," Jake said. "They are not just building a weapon. They are changing reality itself." Zara shivered. She had fought monsters before. She had seen cities burn. But this was something darker. Finally, they reached the control room. Giant screens flickered with alien symbols. A single console stood at the center, guarded by 2 heavy soldiers. "I'll distract them," Jake whispered. "You get the codes." Before Zara could argue, Jake rushed forward, firing his gun. The room exploded into chaos. The guards roared and attacked. Zara sprinted to the console. Her fingers flew over the controls, guessing and hoping. The symbols blurred together. Alarms blared around her. Sparks rained from the ceiling. One of the soldiers charged at her. At the last second, Jake tackled him, throwing him into a wall. "Faster, Zara!" he shouted. Her heart hammered. She pressed one last sequence. The console beeped green. A small metal cube popped out. The data core. "Got it!" she screamed. Jake threw a flash grenade and grabbed her hand. Together, they ran, bullets and energy blasts slicing the air around them. They raced back through the twisting corridors. Behind them, sirens howled. Enemy soldiers swarmed like angry bees. "Almost there," Jake yelled. They reached the tunnel entrance, only to find it blocked by a giant metal beast. It had 6 legs, razor claws, and a face like a nightmare. "Run left," Jake shouted. They darted down another corridor, with the beast crashing after them. Walls crumbled. Pipes exploded. The world shook. Zara's legs burned. Her lungs screamed for air. But she didn't stop. They burst out into the open night. Jake fired a flare into the sky. In the distance, a hidden human shuttle roared to life and sped toward them. "Keep going," Jake shouted, covering their escape. The shuttle hovered, low. Ropes dropped down. Zara grabbed one and started climbing. Jake followed, firing at the chasing soldiers. As they rose into the air, Zara looked down and saw hundreds of enemies pouring out of the facility. "We barely made it," she gasped. "We're not safe yet," Jake said grimly. "They'll chase us. And if they finish that weapon, no one will survive." The shuttle raced into the dark sky. Behind them, the ground trembled. Something deep inside the enemy base was waking up. Something worse than they had ever imagined. And far away in the enemy command ship, the true leader, a shadow in a cloak of living metal, watched the sky and smiled. He had seen everything. The real game had just begun. Chased through fire, the shuttle roared through the black sky, cutting across smoke and broken clouds. Inside, Zara clutched the stolen data core tightly against her chest. Her heart still raced from the escape. Jake sat across from her, checking his rifle, his face cold and focused. The pilot shouted over the noise, "We have enemy flyers incoming. 6 of them. Fast." Zara peered out the small window. Dark shapes flew in the night, sharp and insect-like with blinking red eyes. They moved in packs, twisting and turning like hungry wolves. "Hold on," Jake called. The shuttle jerked as lasers streaked past them. The enemy flyers fired without mercy, ripping holes into the shuttle's armor. The ship shook violently, metal groaning under the stress. "They're too fast," the pilot yelled. "Then we fight," Jake said grimly. He threw Zara a harness and pointed to the side doors. "Open fire when I say," he said. Zara nodded, fear knotting her stomach. She had fought on the ground. Never in the air, never like this. The shuttle tilted sharply. Jake kicked open the side door. Cold wind and smoke rushed in. Below them, the burning city looked like a dying star. "Now!" Jake shouted. They leaned out and fired. Zara's hands shook, but she forced herself to aim. Her bullets tore through one of the enemy flyers, making it explode in a flash of fire. But the others kept coming. One enemy flyer swooped low and slashed at the shuttle with spinning blades. Sparks showered them. The shuttle dipped hard, engines coughing. "We can't stay up much longer," the pilot screamed. "Get us to the ground," Jake ordered. The pilot nodded and nosed the shuttle down, racing toward the ruined streets below. The enemy flyers chased them, howling like monsters. Zara and Jake kept firing, their hands numb from the cold and fear. Finally, with a violent crash, the shuttle hit the ground. It skidded across broken stone, smashing through ruins before coming to a stop. Alarms blared. Smoke filled the air inside. "Out! Move!" Jake barked. Zara stumbled out, coughing. Her legs ached, and her side throbbed where she had slammed into the wall. She looked back and saw the shuttle, a twisted wreck, fire eating at its engines. The pilot was still inside, trying to free himself. "He's trapped!" Zara cried. Jake cursed and ran back. Together, they pulled the pilot free just seconds before the shuttle exploded behind them, the blast throwing them to the ground. The enemy flyers circled above like vultures. "They're not giving up," Zara said, breathing hard. "Then we run," Jake said. "There's a safe house nearby, underground tunnels. If we make it there, we disappear." Zara nodded. There was no other choice. They ran through the burning city. Every step was a fight. Debris blocked the streets, fires roared around them. and the enemy flyers rained death from above. A laser beam slammed into a building beside them, sending chunks of stone flying. Sarah ducked as a wall collapsed just inches from her head. They sprinted through the chaos, hearts pounding. Their shadows danced in the flickering firelight. "Left!" Jake shouted. They turned into a narrow alley just as an enemy flyer swooped down, claws snapping. It missed by inches. "They're hurting us," Zara gasped. "Pushing us somewhere." "I know," Jake said. "It's a trap." But they had no choice. The main roads were death traps now. The enemy was forcing them deeper into the city ruins. Suddenly, they burst into an open square and froze. In the center stood a figure, tall, covered in dark armor that shimmered like oil. Its face was hidden by a smooth black mask. The enemy, Commander. Around him, enemy soldiers formed a deadly circle. "Drop your weapons," a cold voice said from the masked figure. Zara gritted her teeth. Her mind raced. They couldn't fight all of them, but surrender was death too. "Stall them," Jake whispered, stepping in front of her. "I have an idea." Zara tightened, her grip on her gun, but nodded. She stepped forward, pretending to lower her weapon. "We have something you want," she called out. "The core." The enemy soldiers stirred. The masked commander tilted his head slightly, curious. "Hand it over," he said. "Why?" Zara shouted. "So you can destroy us all?" The commander laughed, a low, horrible sound. "You were never meant to survive," he said. "Your world, your people, they are nothing." Behind her, Jake moved quietly, setting a small device onto the ground. A sonic charge. Zara kept talking, drawing the enemy's attention. "Then why are you so afraid of us?" she said boldly. "Why chase us if we don't matter?" The commander raised his hand to order his soldiers forward. At that moment, Jake triggered the sonic charge. The device exploded with a burst of blinding light and screaming sound. The soldiers staggered, clutching their heads. "Run!" Jake shouted. They bolted. Gunfire tore through the square. Enemy flyers dived at them. They leaped over rubble, ducked under fallen beams, and raced toward the old subway tunnels Jake had marked earlier. "Almost there," he shouted. But then, a beam from an enemy flyer clipped Zara's leg. She stumbled, falling hard. Pain flared bright and cruel. She cried out. Jake turned, firing wildly at the flyers, forcing them back. He ran to her, grabbed her under the arms and dragged her up. "You can do this," he said, voice firm. "Just a little more." Zara bit down on the pain and nodded. They stumbled together into the mouth of the old tunnel. Darkness swallowed them. The enemy flyers screeched above but didn't follow. For a moment, there was only silence. Then the tunnel gates slammed shut behind them, triggered by Jake's last charge. Safe. For now. They collapsed onto the cold floor, breathing hard. "We made it," Zara whispered. "Not yet," Jake said. He held up the data core. "We still have to stop them." Zara looked at him through the darkness, her heart heavy but burning with new fire. "Then let's finish what we started," she said. Somewhere deep in the city above, the enemy commander watched the sealed tunnel entrance, his black mask hiding a cruel smile. The hunt was not over. It had only just begun. Old tech. New hope. The tunnel was dark, cold, and endless. Each step echoed like a whisper from the past. Zara limped heavily, the pain from her injured leg sharp with every movement. Jake stayed close to her side, one hand ready on his weapon, the other steadying her when she stumbled. Around them, the abandoned subway tunnel stretched like veins under the dead city. Old warning signs hung from the crumbling walls. Rusted tracks disappeared into the shadows. "How much further?" Zara asked, her voice barely a whisper. "Not far," Jake said. His tone was steady, but there was tightness in it. He knew they were still being hunted. The enemy above would not give up easily. After what felt like hours, they reached a sealed door. It was massive, made of ancient metal, covered in dust and time. Strange symbols were carved across it, human military codes, from a forgotten era. Zara leaned against the wall, breathing hard. Jake pulled out a small keypad and typed in a code. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a deep grinding noise, the door began to open. Behind it was a sight that took Zara's breath away. An old human outpost, hidden and untouched. Dusty, lights flickered to life, revealing rows of powerful weapons, armored vehicles, and a small command center. Everything was coated in dust, but everything was still alive, waiting. "What is this place?" Zara asked in awe. "The last gift," Jake said, quietly. "Before the humans left this part of the galaxy, they built hidden bunkers, just in case we ever came back." Zara walked slowly through the outpost, touching the old machines. They were beautiful in a way, rugged, strong, built for survival. "Can this help us?" she asked. "It has to," Jake said. "Because we're out of options." They set to work immediately. Jake moved with purpose, reconnecting power lines, checking supplies, unlocking weapon caches. Zara, even with her injured leg, helped as much as she could, wiping dust from control panels and searching for medical supplies. They found a small med bay. Jake carefully cleaned and bandaged Zara's wound. His hands were rough, but gentle. "You saved me," she said softly. "You saved me first," Jake replied without looking up. For a few minutes there was silence, not awkward but heavy with meaning. Zara studied Jake's face in the soft light. He looked tired, scarred, but there was something else there too. Something unbroken. "Why do you keep fighting?" she asked. Jake paused. Then he said, "Because once we made a promise. Humans. We promised we would protect those who stood with us. We failed before. I won't fail again." His voice was low, fierce. Zara felt a lump in her throat. She looked away, blinking fast. After resting a little, they explored deeper into the bunker. At the center, they found something incredible. An old starship. Small, built for speed, armored like a tank. The ship's name was painted across its side. The Valiant One. "Can it fly?" Zara asked, her heart pounding. "If we can fix it," Jake said, grinning for the first time. They worked side by side for hours, repairing broken circuits, replacing old fuel cells, testing the engines. It was hard, dirty work, but for the first time in days, Zara felt hope burning inside her chest. Outside, far above, enemy patrols searched the city ruins. Drones scanned the rubble. The commander grew impatient. "Find them," he hissed to his soldiers, "before they find a way to strike back." Deep underground, Zara and Jake powered up the Valiant One. The ship rumbled, coughed, then roared to life. They cheered, exhausted but victorious. "We have a way out now," Jake said. "And a way to fight back," Zara smiled. For the first time it felt real. They had a chance. But hope was a fragile thing. As they prepared to launch, a loud banging echoed through the tunnels. Zara froze. "They found us," she said. Jake grabbed his rifle. "They're trying to break in," he said. "We have maybe minutes." The old security cameras flickered. They showed shadows moving at the tunnel entrance, enemy soldiers cutting through the door with plasma torches. "Can we launch?" Zara asked. "Not yet," Jake said, checking the systems. "Engines need 2 more minutes to warm." Zara's mind raced. They needed a delay. "I'll hold them off," she said, raising her gun. Jake grabbed her arm. "No," he said firmly. "We do this together." They set up defenses at the main entrance, automated turrets, old mines, anything they could find. The first, enemy soldiers burst through the broken tunnel. The air exploded with gunfire. Zara fired until her hands went numb. Jake fought like a machine, moving fast and deadly. The enemy pushed hard, wave after wave. An energy blast knocked Zara back. Her gun flew from her hands. An enemy soldier loomed over her, weapon raised. Before he could strike, Jake tackled him, knocking the enemy to the ground. "Get to the ship," Jake shouted. Zara scrambled up and limped toward the Valiant One. The engines were glowing now, ready. "Jake, come on," she screamed. Jake fired one last burst into the enemy crowd, then sprinted after her. He leapt into the ship just as Zara sealed the hatch. The enemy soldiers pounded on the ship's hull, but it was too late. The Valiant One roared, engines blasting. With a thunderous scream, they shot up through the hidden launch tunnel, breaking through layers of rock and rubble up into the black sky. Zara sat strapped into the seat, breathing hard, tears in her eyes. They had made it. They were flying. And for the first time in a long time, hope burned bright and fierce. Jake looked over at her, a tired smile on his face. "Next stop," he said. "Their weapon. We end this." Zara nodded. Together they soared into the stars, carrying the last hope of two worlds. But in the dark void behind them, the enemy commander watched, his eyes cold and patient. He had seen the launch, and he was ready for them. The final fight, the Valiant One sliced through the cold dark sky, engines roaring like thunder. Inside, Zara and Jake prepared for war. The stolen data core floated between them, projecting a map, the location of the enemy's superweapon. A barren planet loomed, ahead wrapped in storms and shadows. At its heart, the enemy's fortress rose like a black mountain, surrounded by shields of crackling energy and endless armies. "We only get one shot," Jake said, his voice hard. Zara nodded. There was no fear in her eyes now, only fire. "Then, let's make it count," she said. They flew low, using the rocky terrain to hide. The fortress guns searched the skies, firing blindly into the storm. Zara manned the weapon systems. Her injured leg throbbed, but she ignored it. Adrenaline drowned the pain. They had come too far to stop now. The plan was simple and insane. Crash. The ship straight into the heart of the fortress. Fight their way to the weapons core, destroy it. "Ready?" Jake asked. Zara smiled grimly. "Ready," the Valiant One roared higher. Alarm screamed from the enemy fortress. Defense systems locked onto them. Lasers filled the air. Jake weaved through the deadly storm, dodging blasts that lit up the sky. "Almost there," he shouted. A missile struck the ship's side. The Valiant One shook violently, sparks flying from the consoles. "We're hit," Zara yelled. "Hold on." Jake gritted his teeth and pushed the engines harder. The fortress loomed ahead, a giant black scar against the red storms. Jake aimed straight at it. "Jump!" he shouted. Zara grabbed the parachute pack, and together they leapt into the storm. Seconds later, the Valiant One slammed into the fortress wall in a fireball of destruction. Zara hit the ground hard, rolling to absorb the impact. Jake landed nearby, already on his feet, weapon ready. Enemy soldiers poured from the fortress gates, hundreds of them, armored and armed. "No going back," Jake said. "Then we go through," Zara replied. They charged into the chaos. Gunfire erupted around them. Lasers scorched the ground. Explosions ripped the air apart. Zara moved like lightning, her new weapon, a stolen enemy blaster, cutting through soldiers. Jake fought with brutal efficiency, every move precise, deadly. They pushed deeper into the fortress, hallway after hallway, stair after stair, leaving a trail of broken enemies behind. But it wasn't enough. The deeper they went, the stronger, the resistance. Giant enemy brutes blocked their path, their armored fists smashing walls and floors. Zara and Jake fought together, back to back, covering each other, saving each other again and again. Blood stained Zara's armor, burns scorched Jake's arms. Still they fought. Still they refused to fall. Finally, breathless and bloody, they reached the core chamber. The weapon was even worse than they imagined. A twisting mass of dark energy, pulsing with unnatural life. It throbbed like a living heart, fed by rivers of stolen souls, and guarding it was him, the enemy commander. He stood tall and terrible, his black armor shining, his eyes like burning coals. "You should have stayed dead," he said, his voice echoing through the vast chamber. "Not today," Jake said. The commander smiled, a cold, cruel smile. Then he moved, faster than anything Zara had ever seen. He slammed into Jake, throwing him across the chamber. Zara fired, but the commander deflected the shots with a wave of his hand. "You are nothing," he hissed. Just dust. He struck at Zara, and she barely dodged. His blows shattered stone and bent steel. Keep him busy, Jake shouted from across the chamber. Zara understood. Jake was setting the charges. They needed time, and she would give it to him. She dodged and fought every second a miracle. The commander was a monster, faster, stronger, and smarter. Every blow she blocked sent shocks through her bones. Still, she fought. Still she stood. Why do you fight? The commander sneered. Your world is already dead. Because even in death, Zara spat, we are stronger than you will ever be. The commander roared and attacked harder. Meanwhile, Jake worked quickly, planting explosive charges around the core. His hands were steady even as blood ran down his face. Just a little more, he muttered. Then disaster struck. The commander realized what Jake was doing. With a roar, he threw Zara aside like a ragdoll and charged toward Jake. No! Zara screamed. With the last of her strength, she raised her gun and fired. One shot. Pure. Desperate. Perfect. It struck the commander's shoulder, slowing him for a precious second, enough for Jake to finish. He slammed the final charge into place. The weapon howled as the explosives armed. Zara, run! Jake shouted. She staggered to her feet, pain blinding her. Together, they sprinted for the exit. The commander roared in fury, dark energy swirling around him. He launched one final blast. It struck Jake square in the back. He stumbled, fell. No! Zara screamed. She ran back, grabbing his arm. Get up, please. Jake coughed, blood staining his lips. You have to finish it, he said, voice weak. Not without you, she cried. He smiled, a small, sad smile. You're not alone, he whispered. Then he shoved her toward the exit with the last of his strength. The charges exploded. The world shattered. Zara was thrown through the air, crashing through the fortress walls into the storm outside. Everything burned. Everything ended. Hours later, Zara woke up under a blood-red sky. The fortress was gone, a smoking crater in the dead land. She was alive, but Jake was gone. Tears filled her eyes as she stood up, clutching the scorched data core. He had saved her. He had saved them all, and she would honor him. She turned her eyes to the dark skies where enemy ships still floated. The war was not over, but hope had survived, and she would carry it into battle. For Jake. For everyone. For the future. Far above, hidden in the shadows of space, a new enemy watched the ruined planet. The real war, it seemed, had only just begun. Together, we win the world was ashes. Zara stood at the edge of the smoking crater where the enemy fortress once stood. The winds howled around her, carrying dust and the scent of burned metal. Her heart felt like it had been carved out of her chest, but she was still alive. And as long as she lived, the fight wasn't over. Jake's sacrifice burned bright in her mind. He had believed in her, trusted her. Now, it was her turn to carry. The flame, the data core, half broken but still pulsing weakly, rested in her hand. Inside it was everything. Enemy plans, weaknesses, and hope. Zara limped across the dead land, every step fueled by sheer will. Somehow, some way, she had to find allies. She had to make Jake's death mean something. Days passed in a blur. Zara moved from ruined village to broken city, sending out distress signals with old transmitters. Many times she almost gave up, crushed by loneliness, pain, and doubt. But then, the answers started coming. First, small groups, scattered alien survivors who had lost their homes to the enemy. Then a few humans, soldiers who had been hiding in distant systems waiting for a leader. Word spread like fire. The girl who fought alone. The human who died to save a world. Hope was rising. Within weeks, a small army had gathered under Zara's command, not enough to win a full war, but enough to start one. Standing before the ragtag group, aliens, humans, old war machines, Zara felt something powerful inside her. This was not just about survival. This was about victory. We are not many, she said, her voice steady. "But we have something stronger than numbers. We have a reason. We fight not for power, not for revenge. We fight because we must. Because we will not be slaves to fear." The soldiers roared their agreement. They were ready, and so was she. The final battle began under a blood-red sky. The enemy had gathered their forces, led by a new warlord. More machine than living thing, towers of black steel rose in the distance, belching smoke and death. Zara led the charge. Tanks rolled over the broken ground. Flyers streaked overhead. Energy blasts turned the earth into rivers of fire. Zara fought at the front, her new armor, scarred but shining. Every shot she fired, every enemy she struck down was a promise to Jake. "Together we win," she whispered under her breath. Enemy soldiers poured forward in endless waves. Drones swarmed the skies. Monstrous war beasts roared and charged. But Zara's army stood firm. They fought smarter. They fought harder. They fought like they had nothing left to lose. Hours turned into days. The battlefield became a graveyard. Both sides bled. Both sides burned. But slowly, surely, Zara's forces pushed forward. They reached the main enemy command tower, a twisted spire of black iron and pulsing red veins. Inside, the final battle awaited. Zara gathered her best fighters. Together, they stormed the tower. Floors collapsed under their feet. Enemy elites, massive soldiers with living armor, attacked from every side. Zara lost many friends along the way, but she never stopped moving, never stopped fighting, never stopped believing. At the heart of the tower, the new enemy warlord waited. He was a nightmare-given form, taller than a giant, his body fused with weapons and machines, his eyes burned with a sick, cold hate. "You are nothing," he growled, voice shaking the walls. "You cannot win." Zara stepped forward, raising her weapon. "Maybe," she said, "but I am not alone." Her army poured into the chamber, surrounding the warlord. For the first time, the enemy hesitated, and then they attacked. The final fight was brutal beyond words. Zara dodged blasts that melted steel. She fired shot after shot into the warlord, watching as his armor cracked and bled dark oil. The warlord struck back, tearing through fighters with claws of living metal. One by one, Zara's soldiers fell, but they bought her time. Time to reach the core of the tower, time to set the explosives. She worked fast, hands steady even as tears blurred her vision. The warlord saw her. With a roar, he charged. Zara stood her ground. At the last second, she triggered the explosives. The tower shook. The warlord howled in rage. Zara turned and ran, sprinting through collapsing halls and falling debris. She burst out of the tower just as it exploded behind her, a pillar of fire tearing into the sky. The enemy army broke. Without their leader, they scattered. Victory was theirs. Zara fell to her, knees exhausted beyond words. Around her, the survivors cheered, wept, embraced. It was over. The nightmare was over. Days later, under a new sky, Zara stood before the rebuilt command center. A monument had been raised in the center of the city, a simple statue of a soldier, helmet tucked under one arm, looking toward the stars. Jake Hunter. Below it, a single line was carved. "You fought well, but you are not alone." Zara touched the cold stone, closing her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered. She turned to the gathered crowd, humans and aliens standing side by side. "Today we build a new world," she said. "Not just for us, for everyone." The crowd roared. Hope burned brighter than ever. And somewhere in the stars, she knew, Jake was smiling. Together, they had won. Together, they would rebuild. Together, they would never be alone again.